Today, I'm going to reveal what's happening inside your brain when you're triggered. I'm going to help you understand why what you try to do when you're triggered isn't working, and be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll reveal what you should be doing when you're triggered. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Trevor Brown. I am a licensed therapist. I work with expats to cultivate emotional resilience and to foster deeper connections in their lives. I'm going to talk about this in 4 parts: the trigger, the triggered brain, the not triggered brain, and how to get yourself from the triggered brain to the not triggered brain. Let's start off with the trigger. You've probably heard of the ANS, the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system scans our environment 4 times a second in search of a sign of threat. In other words, we're biologically hardwired to proactively be on the lookout for anything that might be threatening. This is part of what kept us alive way back when, and it's trying to do the same thing now. How does the ANS perceive threat? Well, it does so for 2 reasons. One is when there is immediate and obvious threat in the environment, but there's also the type of threat that comes from implicit memory. Implicit memory is the emotional knowings and learnings and understandings that we picked up somewhere in the past, and there's something that's happening in the present moment that's similar enough to those past moments that it activates that threat response. And then there's a superimposition of the past onto the present. So we're responding to the present as though it were the past. A mentor of mine, Terry Real, he says that when we're triggered, we may not be reacting to what's in front of us, but we are reacting to something. What we're reacting to is the past that was just triggered in the moment, because something that was happening in the moment was close enough to what happened in the past. So it's really a memory that's getting triggered, but it doesn't feel or look like that to our conscious mind in the moment. It feels like the entire truth of our being. And so it's like our body is activated and our body's trying to tell us something that may not actually correspond to present reality. Like an observer over here may be like, why is this person having such a triggered or emotional response? Well, they don't have our history. If we had a shared history, which nobody does, they would have the exact same experience that we're having. We're no longer in contact with reality. There's now a buffer between us and reality, and that buffer is our past experiences. We're seeing reality as it presently is through the lens of our past experiences or our implicit memory, and then responding to present reality as though it were our past experiences. So that's what happens when we're triggered. When we're triggered, we're no longer in immediate, direct relationship with present reality. Now we're going to talk about the triggered brain. That is, what's actually happening inside here when I'm in a triggered state. To illustrate this, we're going to use a really simple example. Perhaps you've seen it before. It's called the hand model of the brain. So in the hand model of the brain, the palm is the brainstem. Then we fold in our thumb, and that's the limbic system. And then we fold our fingers over our thumb, and that's the prefrontal cortex. It's the most developed part of the mammalian or the human brain. Now, the subcortical system, which is made up of the brainstem and the limbic system, is incredibly fast. The processing speed of this region is 1/8 to 1/12 of a second. It's immediate. It happens so fast we're not aware of it. When it gets activated, it's very all or nothing. It's very black and white. There's no nuance. There's no time to sit there and think about, is this true or is this not true? Because it's responding to threat. And if there's a real threat in the environment, we want to know that as quickly as possible so that we can get ourselves to safety as quickly as possible. So this region is triggered when we are experiencing threat. So in the field, we call this flipping the lid. So the brain, when it's operating in a balanced and neutral and healthy space, it looks like this. The prefrontal cortex is online and it's running the show. But in a moment when our ANS, our autonomic nervous system, has picked up on a sign of threat, our lid flips. And now this region, the subcortical region, is running the show. What does that mean? What does it look like when this region is running the show? Well, it's like a whoosh, like we're overcome with all of this intense emotion. And the next thing we want to do is get out of them because they're so huge and intense and overwhelming and not pleasant. We want to find our way to distance ourselves from the feelings. And so that's when we go into a whole range of defensive behaviors, defensive moves. In relational life therapy, we call this the adaptive child. The adaptive child is all about protection. It's all about getting me to a place where I feel better by any means possible as quickly as possible. There's no room for nuanced thinking. It's very harsh. It's very black and white. It's convinced of the legitimacy of its thoughts and feelings. It can't take any time to consider, wait, am I totally right in thinking and feeling this way? Maybe there's another perspective. Maybe I should hear other people. No, none of that is happening when we are in the triggered state and our adaptive child is fully online and running the show. So when we're here, our thinking mind is totally offline. And we're really responding in just an automatic sort of get me out of here, help me feel better way. It's not going to be very skilled. The untriggered brain is this. It's when our lid is fully on. So in any moment of trigger, this happens. And what we want to be able to do is start to breathe past and move past this so that we can get back to this place, and from this place, choose how we want to engage with our world. In this place, that subcortical region is still sending information up, but this time the prefrontal cortex is processing that information and down regulating. It's helping us calm down, breathe easy, and think clearly. The processing of the prefrontal cortex is 2 to 3 seconds. This is the potential problem, right? Because this region, as I said earlier, its processing speed is hyper fast, 1/8 to 1/12 of a second. This is 2 to 3 seconds. So we need to develop the capacity to recognize this, breathe past this, bring this online, and then from this place, we'll be able to think with nuance. We'll be able to think critically. We'll be able to see multiple choices, multiple behaviors that are before us in any given moment, and we'll be able to choose the one that's in alignment with our values. It's able to hold multiple divergent views simultaneously without necessarily having to prioritize one over the other. It takes my needs into consideration and yours and theirs, and the behavioral choice that we make from this place is considered and thoughtful. So now the goal, what we want to start to be able to enact in real time, is to get from this to this. That's the move that we're making. How do we do that? We want to cultivate our awareness. We want to cultivate our capacity to not be captured by our experiencing. We want to begin to be able to bear witness to our experiencing so that we can then choose to do this and then choose behaviors from that. And the key to doing this is to be able to let the whoosh come over you, come through you, and pass through you without you doing anything about it or without you acting on it or from it. It's not easy, but it's doable. We can get back into this part of our brain, but we have to be willing to let this wash over us. We need to be willing to feel the intensity of really, 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 really wanting to do something and not actually do it. That's the secret. Everything inside of us is going this way, but because we're aware of it, because we're paying attention to it, we can be like, I see where you want to go. Actually, this time, how about not? Let's not go there. Self-compassion is part of what helps us down-regulate our heightened states. When we can bring compassion not just to our defensive maneuver, but to the underlying vulnerabilities that are activated when we're trying to get out of them through our defensive maneuvers. When we can bring kindness to that, when we can hold ourselves the way we might hold our struggling, pain-ridden child, for example, that's going to bring a lot of ability to down-regulate. When we're in a state of self-compassion, the prefrontal cortex, it actually sends soothing, calming neurochemicals to the limbic system when the limbic system is in a state of agitation. When you're able to do it one time, give yourself credit, but it's going to take ongoing practice and a lot of discipline. Because what we're doing here is we're building a new neural pathway. You've probably heard the saying before, where electricity goes, the neural pathway grows. So if you watch the whoosh instead of just going with it, then you're running electricity down the new pathway. In time, you will grow new neural pathways and fibers. So getting from the first consciousness whoosh into the second consciousness, considered deliberate, kind, empathetic thinking and acting will become quicker and quicker and quicker. But in the beginning, it's going to feel a little bit like moving a mountain. It's not moving a mountain, but it might feel like that. Don't expect it to feel easy. If you're expecting it to be easy, I guess just give up now. Be ready for it to feel really hard. Everything inside of you wants to go this way, and you say, no, I'm not going to. Not this time. I'm going to go this way. Or I'm at least going to stay here and let that wash over me. That's the secret. Do that 1,000 times a day, and you will be getting somewhere entirely new. You will feel better for it. And maybe even more importantly, the people around you will feel better for it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat informative and hopefully even more than informative, actually actionable. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below or shoot me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day.